Falcatrons, War of the Forged. Chapter 1: The Awakening of Helios. The desert was dead. Heat shimmered off broken solar panels that once powered half the continent. They now lay cracked and buried under dunes, glass and silicon torn apart by the wind. Mike Helios adjusted his sand-cloaked visor, scanning the wasteland for anything useful. A single falcon wheeled overhead, the only living thing for miles. Or so he thought. "Signal's stronger here," he muttered, tapping the receiver on his wrist. The old military-grade scanner pulsed softly, its screen glowing with an unfamiliar frequency. Not military, not corporate, something older. Mike crouched, brushing away the sand. A glint of gold shone beneath. Metal, smooth, circular. He unlatched his pack, yanked out a crowbar, and jammed it into the edge. With a grunt, the hatch beneath the dunes gave way, releasing a rush of trapped heat and something else. A pulse. He staggered back as the wind shifted. A low hum filled the air. His pulse quickened. The ground vibrated, not like machinery, more like a heartbeat. "What the hell are you?" Mike whispered, stepping closer. Inside the small chamber, buried deep in sand, was a golden relic, an orb. It floated, untouched, glowing with light not cast by the sun but from within. His visor flickered, the HUD scrambled, then everything went dark, silent. Then, a voice. Photonic core recognized. Designate. Helios. Mike froze. He hadn't spoken. No one had. Genetic resonance. Match. A shaft of sunlight broke through the clouds, striking the orb like a beacon. The relic rose higher, light spiraling from its edges. He took a step back. It didn't follow. It waited. Then, with a final flare of gold, the relic slammed into his chest. Mike screamed, falling to his knees as heat and pressure poured into his body. Armor unfolded from the light, plates of gleaming alloy forming around his limbs, wrapping his arms, spine, and chest. His skin burned, but he didn't blister. His heart raced, but he didn't collapse. And just as quickly as it started, it was over. He stood, panting, encased in a radiant exoshell of gold and light. The Ixo Suit. The desert wind had stilled. Even the falcon was gone. "Welcome, Mike Helios," the voice said again, gentler now like a companion. "You have been chosen by the Falcatrons." Mike looked at his reflection in the shattered panel nearby. His eyes glowed faintly, like the suit itself. The helmet had not formed completely, only the neural link and throat piece. Whatever this was, it wasn't finished. A warning klaxon cut through the moment. His old wrist scanner had rebooted. On screen, a swarm of red dots, moving fast. Dozens. Drones. But not human. Mike raised his arm. The suit reacted instantly, morphing his forearm into a gleaming solar rifle. His training kicked in. He ducked behind a fallen panel, peeking over the edge. They came in fast. Quadrupeds with sharp limbs and glossy black plating. Not drones, not machines. Something in between. And all of them bore a mark he'd seen once on a forgotten briefing file. A black scorpion. "Scorpitrons," he whispered. One lunged. He fired. The solar rifle burst with a pulse of white-hot light, melting through the creature's exoskeleton. Another leapt over the dune, only to be incinerated mid-air by a reactive flare from the Ixo Suit. He turned, rolled, fired again. The movements were too fast for him to consciously plan. The suit was fighting with him, For him. After the fourth one fell, the rest retreated into the dunes. For now. Mike stood in silence, chest heaving, energy humming around his limbs. He looked at the glowing suit again. What the hell have I become? The voice answered without hesitation. You are the last hope of light. The war has already begun. Chapter 2. Scorpitrons Unleashed. Beneath the ruined city of Virex Prime, far below the reach of sunlight, the earth trembled with synthetic birth. Marcus Crimson stood in the center of the hive core, surrounded by glass incubation pods, rows of them. Each one pulsed with sickly green light and housed something alive. Not human, not machine. A fusion of both. Scorpitrons. They twitched behind reinforced bioglass, curled in fetal form. Exoskeletal limbs spasmed as AI code uploaded into their brains. Muscles expanded over carbon fiber bones. Their skin, if it could be called that, was glossy black, segmented like armor, reinforced with synthetic keratin and trace metals. They were beautiful, in a terrifying way. Batch 47 nearing completion, a synthetic voice reported from overhead. All units viable. Neural override link stable. Marcus said nothing. He stared at one specific pod, Unit X09, the first hybrid to evolve with a venom sac coded to paralyze human bioelectric fields. A living weapon. A reflection of his own creation. He stepped closer, placing his palm on the glass. His own hand, half metallic, mirrored the creature inside. Long ago, he had injected the prototype neural interface into his own brain. He had become the first successful human Scorpitron hybrid. Now he was more than human. He was the architect of the new order. And he had a vision. No more weak flesh. No more solar-dependent power grids. No more fragile emotions. Only survival. Only control. A red alert pulsed in the hive's neural core. Unknown photonic signature detected. Solar frequency, 34 kilometers east. Marcus narrowed his eyes. Solar? Impossible. He turned to the data stream projected above him. There it was, a burst of light, followed by brief interference, and 4 Scorpitron units lost in the field. Vaporized. Falcatron activity? He asked. Unknown. Cross-referencing. Solar resonance confirmed. Probable match. Falcatron Ixo core signature. Marcus clenched his metal fist. One survived. One of the ancient light-forged beings, or worse, one of them had bonded with a human. Just like the files had warned. Just like the legends. Prepare the dread crawlers, he ordered. Send a scout swarm. I want him alive. And if that fails... He looked back at Unit X09, still gestating behind the glass. Deploy the Void Seed. 30 minutes later, beneath the sand dunes where Mike Helios stood surveying the wreckage of the earlier fight, the ground began to shift. He felt it before he saw it, a subtle tremble under his boots. The Ixo Suit vibrated, syncing to seismic patterns. Warning, the AI voice said. Subsurface tunneling detected. 4 targets inbound. Burrow class. Mike crouched. What are Burrow class? The sand exploded. A towering Scorpitron burst from beneath, nearly twice the size of the others. This one had mechanical pincers, an arched back like a scorpion's tail, and glowing red stripes running along its body. The air rippled from the heat of its emergence. 3 smaller ones followed, twitching, fast, and feral. Mike aimed, fired, The solar beam struck true, but the Dreadcrawler's armor reflected part of the blast. The suit recalibrated instantly, charging another round. Then came the tail. The Dreadcrawler's stinger launched from its back like a spear. Mike rolled aside just in time. The sand behind him turned black, liquefied by whatever toxin the barb had carried. Toxin class detected, the AI noted. Corrosive to organic and synthetic hybrid tissue. Caution advised. He couldn't outgun it here. Not in the open. Mike sprinted up the dune as drones launched from the Scorpitrons' back. Spider-like things with needled legs and red targeting optics. They swarmed. "Engage boosters," Mike ordered. The suit flared, blasting him into the sky for a split-second leap. The drones followed, but he twisted mid-air, activated a flare burst, and dropped like a meteor. He landed hard behind the crawler. The solar blade on his wrist ignited, a radiant light sword. He plunged it deep into the Scorpitron's back. It screamed, an awful metallic shriek, then exploded in a burst of red gas and twitching limbs. The smaller ones scattered. The battle was won, but Mike's heart pounded. If they were coming in numbers now, how long before they overwhelmed the surface? "How many more of these things are down there?" he asked aloud. The suit hesitated. "Billions." Chapter 3. The Call to Light. Night fell, but the sky still burned. Mike Helios stood alone atop the dune, the glow of his Ixo Suit casting a soft halo around him. In the distance, the desert shimmered beneath the stars, quiet once again, but the silence felt like a warning, not a reprieve. He turned toward the horizon. In the far distance, a structure had appeared. He hadn't seen it before, not because it wasn't there, but because the suit hadn't let him. A voice echoed in his ear, ancient and melodic, layered with light itself. "Your awakening has triggered the solar beacon. The path is now visible." The structure shimmered, golden spires jutting out from the dunes like a buried temple slowly emerging from beneath the earth. The air around it bent, like heat distortion. But it was something else. Light. Mike descended the dunes, every step drawing him closer to the unknown. The suit seemed to pulse in rhythm with the spires ahead. As he approached, the desert floor gave way to smooth alloy beneath his boots. A circular platform rose, seamless and silent. Then, from above, a ring of radiant drones descended, not weapons, but escorts. "Identify yourself," came the voice again. "Mike Helios," he said. "I think I was chosen." The drones circled him, scanning. Photonic resonance confirmed. Bonded core. Ixo class. "Welcome, Lightbearer." The spires around him shifted. Panels opened with hydraulic precision, revealing an inner chamber. The ring platform lowered, taking Mike underground, deeper into the Sunforge. As the light dimmed, a colossal room unfolded before him. Unlike the dark hives of the Scorpitrons, this space glowed with warm gold and silver tones. Curved walls etched with alien glyphs, patterns that seemed to ripple like waves of starlight. At the center stood a towering figure, at least 10 feet tall, cloaked in radiant armor, its falcon-shaped head casting twin beams of soft blue light from its eyes. Mike stepped forward instinctively, the suit responding as though recognizing its kin. "Are you a Falcatron?" he asked. The being nodded slowly. "Designation, Aurum Prime, firstborn of the light. I am the voice of the core. We have waited a long time for your kind." "My kind?" "Humanity," You are the first in over 200 years to resonate with the Ixo core. The Falcatrons cannot act alone. Our code was written for harmony. We require your will. Mike looked down at his hands. I don't understand. Why me? Aurum Prime stepped closer. Because you carry the light of choice. And now, the darkness has risen again. The far wall lit up, forming a three-dimensional map of Earth. Red zones flickered across it like open wounds. The Scorpitrons, Mike muttered. They were born of corrupted code, spliced with human cruelty. Not all darkness is artificial. Much of it began with your kind. Mike didn't argue. He'd seen enough war to know that truth. They've taken someone, he said. My partner, Gwen. If she's alive, they'll be using her. I need to find her. Aurum Prime turned to face the map. Then you must complete the bond. The Ixo Suit is only half formed. Without full integration, you cannot survive what lies beneath the hollow city. But once you ascend, you will become more than soldier. You will become the beacon of light. The room dimmed. A new chamber opened behind the map. A vertical crucible lined with photonic veins pulsing with golden energy. Enter the forge, said Aurum. Face the memory of the sun. Mike stepped inside. As the doors closed, pain and light swallowed him whole. Outside, far above the sun forge, a high-orbit satellite caught the flare of energy rising from the desert. In the hollow city, deep within his throne room of iron and bone, Marcus Crimson watched the data stream unfold. A red glint flashed in his cybernetic eye. So, the Falcatrons awaken, he muttered, and their little soldier begins his journey. He turned to a kneeling Scorpitron hybrid beside him. Thin, needle-limbed, its spine arched with biotubes. Release the crawlers. Collapse the Ember Vault. Let's see how much light he can shine when all he loves is buried in ash. Chapter 4. Forged in the Sun Forge. Mike screamed, but no sound escaped the chamber. Inside the Sunforge crucible, his body hovered in the center of a sphere of pure light. Energy surged through every cell, not burning him, but rewriting him. Memories blurred. His time as a Marine, the battles, the losses, Gwen's face, her smile. Then another image broke through. A star, splitting open, not in the sky, but inside him. The voice of the suit, once calm, now roared like a solar storm. Ixo Protocol, final stage, photonic threading in progress. Metal threads, glowing white-hot, wrapped around his spine like a second nervous system. Neural links fused into his bones. His heart beat once, then again, each time sinking more deeply with the light. It wasn't just armor anymore. It was part of him. A final pulse of solar energy exploded outward, and then silence. The chamber doors opened. Mike stepped out, reborn. The suit now shimmered with layered plating shaped like solar feathers, sleek and radiant. His visor had changed, falcon-like, sharp-edged, crowned with subtle golden markings. His steps made no sound. He didn't need to move fast. The energy moved with him. Aurum Prime stood at the edge of the forge. You have become what we once dreamed of, but could never be, the Falcatron said. Machine with soul, warrior with heart. Mike exhaled. He didn't feel tired. He felt infinite. I can feel everything, he said. The sun, the planet's pulse, the Scorpitrons in the dirt beneath me. Aurum nodded. You are now attuned to the core of light. But your power must be focused. There is one who will ground you. Gwen, Mike said. Aurum lifted a hand, and a hologram formed, flickering, distorted, but unmistakably her. Gwen, strapped to a vertical harness, unconscious, tubes connected to her arms and back, her eyes twitched under closed lids. She is alive, Aurum said, held in the assimilation vault beneath the hollow city. If their process completes, she will become one of them, a hybrid host. Mike's jaw clenched. Then I'm going in. You are not alone. From the walls of the Sunforge, 6 other Falcatrons emerged, each one unique in design. One was lean and sharp like a blade, another heavy like a tank. One floated slightly above the ground, wings folded into its back like dormant solar sails. These are your squad, said Aurum, the last of the Vanguard Protocol. Together you will breach the hollow city and retrieve the human heart that grounds your light. Mike turned to them. They saluted, raising their arms in a crossed sigil over their chest, the eye of Horus blazing on each gauntlet. Light guide you, they said in perfect unison, voices like overlapping harmonics. Hours later, far beneath the hollow city, Gwen Hera opened her eyes. Blinding white lights glared above her. The air reeked of oil and blood. Machines hissed, tubes drained. She couldn't move her arms. A figure emerged from the shadows. Tall, broad-shouldered, half human, half machine. Marcus Crimson. You're stronger than the others, he said, circling her like a predator. Your neural signature resisted the override longer than expected. Curious. I wonder what part of you keeps fighting. He touched a panel beside her. A pain spike shot through her spine. Gwen gasped. You know he's coming, don't you? Marcus said. Your hero, Mike Helios. Her eyes flared. He doesn't know what you are yet, Marcus continued. You're not just his reason to fight. You're his weakness. Gwen smiled through gritted teeth. And you're afraid. Marcus leaned in. I was afraid once. Then I chose to become something greater. He stepped away, hand hovering above a switch. When he arrives, I'll give you a choice. Join me, or watch him die. In the skies above the hollow city, the storm clouds parted. A radiant beam of golden light shot down from orbit, and from it, 7 figures descended like falling stars. Mike Helios led the way, eyes blazing, fists clenched. This ends tonight. Chapter 5. Shadows of the Hollow City. The Hollow City wasn't dead. It was dreaming. From the sky, it looked like any other post-collapse metropolis. Towers of steel, blacked-out windows, crumbling skywalks. But beneath the surface, the city pulsed like a living organism. Heat signatures moved in synchronized lines. Streets breathed mist. Lights flickered in Morse-like code, a language only machines could read. Mike Helios landed hard on the rooftop of a corporate ruin. 6 Falcatrons touched down beside him, their golden armor gleaming in the dim haze. He scanned the skyline. Sensors active. Give me positions. The light field hoodie expanded across his visor, highlighting weak points, patrol routes, and energy spikes beneath the surface. Signs of Scorpitron tunnels, reactor cores, and somewhere deeper, Gwen. The Falcatron known as Sky Vault stepped forward. Slender and tall, its limbs folded with humming resonance. Central core lies beneath the citadel. Deep within, the assimilation vault. Your human companion is there. Mike nodded. Then we move. They leapt rooftop to rooftop, silent, precise. As they neared the central sector, the glow of their suits dimmed, adjusting to avoid detection. Marcus Crimson's surveillance grid was vast, but it couldn't track light that bent with grace. They reached the citadel's outer wall, a tower of obsidian and steel, laced with glowing red veins, Scorpitron architecture, born of machine and meat. The closer they got, the more organic it felt. The building seemed to hiss, its walls flexing like muscle. Can't believe this was once a tech HQ, Mike whispered. Skyvault replied, It still is, just no longer yours. Below them, within the citadel, Marcus Crimson stood before a panoramic window. Below him, the assimilation vault buzzed with activity. Dozens of Scorpitron hybrids moved in formation, warriors in full exoskeletons, drones with crawling limbs, scouts with glowing red optics. Behind glass, Gwen remained suspended. Wires trailed from her spine and skull. Her vitals were stable, for now. Let him come, Marcus said, turning to his lieutenants, towering Scorpitrons with arms shaped like curved blades. Let the light in. I want to see what it looks like when it dies. The breach was clean. Mike and his squad dropped into the Citadel's third tier from above, slicing through a forgotten skylight with a photonic blade. They landed in a silent corridor lined with curved red glass and living steel. Then the lights changed. Alarm. The walls pulsed crimson. The floor split open. Scatter! Mike yelled. A volley of micromines burst from the corridor. Some bounced, others burrowed. The squad split just in time. 2 Falcatrons returned fire, blasting the mines mid-air with radiant bolts. From the far end of the hall, Scorpitrons surged forward, 5-legged beasts with jagged limbs and stinger cannons mounted to their backs. Their eyes glowed purple, mouths clicking with mechanical hunger. Mike activated the flare pulse in his left gauntlet, blinding the first wave. His team advanced in formation, the light from their weapons slicing through darkness like sunrise. One Scorpitron leapt for him. Mike caught it mid-air, slammed it down, and drove a photonic blade through its core. Sparks and dark fluid erupted from its chest. Behind him, Glimmerclaw, a Falcatron with twin solar sabers, danced through 2 more enemies like a desert wind. "Push to the lift shaft!" Mike shouted. "We breach the vault now!" Skyvault fired an arc beam into the control panel, ripping open the mag lift doors. They dropped in, 100 meters straight down. In the vault, Gwen opened her eyes. She could hear the sirens. She could feel the tremors of combat. He was coming. She gritted her teeth, forcing her mind to focus. The interface spike in her neck was weakening her, but not fully linked. Her training kicked in. Meditation, breath control. She followed her heartbeat. Then, in the glass beside her, a crack appeared, followed by light. A blade cut through. Then another. The vault doors exploded outward, and Mike Helios stormed in, flanked by his golden squad, eyes blazing. "Gwen!" she cried out, straining against the restraints. A Scorpitron lunged from the shadows. Too fast. But not fast enough. Mike's body moved before thought. He vaulted forward, shoulder first into the creature, then impaled it with both wrist blades. Sparks flew. He spun, cutting through another before it could rise. Glimmerclaw freed Gwen, slicing the restraints. She collapsed into Mike's arms. "You came," she whispered. "Always." But just as they reached the exit corridor, the lights cut out. Then came the voice. "Leaving so soon?" Marcus Crimson stepped out from the darkness, not as a man, but something far worse. Fully armored, eyes burning, his voice now layered with Scorpitron resonance. "You've taken back the girl," he said. "Now let's see if you can hold on to her." Chapter 6. The Capture of Gwen Hera. The corridor shook with tension. Mike Helios stepped between Gwen and Marcus Crimson, his solar-charged gauntlets lighting up with firelight. The Falcatrons flanked them, weapons ready. Gwen was weak, but conscious, her breath steady, eyes locked on the monster who had once been human. Marcus stood with a predator's calm, armored in jagged obsidian plating. His exoskeletal arms folded like a spider's, and his eyes burned with unnatural focus. Half his face was still flesh, but the other half was a web of glinting chrome and black scorpion bone. "You've grown," Marcus said. "The suit suits you." "I'm not here for you," Mike growled. "I came for her. And yet here I am." Marcus smirked. "You still don't get it, do you? She's the reason you were chosen. The light needs a heart. Take it away." He snapped his fingers. The walls cracked. Burrowed vents along the ceiling ruptured, and dozens of Scorpitron crawlers flooded the corridor. Small, fast, needle-limbed horrors. Some had scythe-like arms, others bore injector tails dripping with toxin. Their screeches echoed like static through a radio. "Form up!" Mike shouted. Skyvault dropped into a defensive stance, shield projectors flaring to life. Glimmerclaw darted ahead, carving through crawlers in streaks of solar blue. Mike spun, blasting two with a pulse shot, then shielded Gwen as more swarmed. "Fall back to the lift shaft," he barked. Aurum Prime's voice rang out through the comms. "Extraction pod inbound. You must hold the corridor for 20 seconds. Easy on paper. Hell in practice." Mike turned, and Marcus was already there. The first blow came fast. A dark blade extended from Marcus's wrist and struck Mike's solar shield with a crack of impact that made the corridor flash white. Mike reeled, blocking another strike with his forearm, returning a counterpunch that dented Marcus's chest plate. But not enough. They clashed like titans. Blade on blade, light against darkness. Sparks danced with blood. Every move was memory. Mike remembered drills, training, war zones. But Marcus moved with machine precision, like he could predict every strike before it came. "You don't belong in that suit," Marcus spat, locking weapons. "You're still human, weak, hesitant." "I'm not just fighting for me," Mike growled. "I fight for what you threw away." He broke the lock, twisted, and unleashed a solar surge point blank. Marcus flew backward, crashing into a wall of metal. The lift pod roared into the corridor behind them, door open. "Go!" Mike yelled to the Falcatrons. "Get her out!" Skyvault grabbed Gwen gently and leapt into the pod. The others followed, covering their retreat. Mike turned, just in time to see Marcus rise again. This time, he didn't attack. He pointed. A single scout drone, almost invisible, had flanked the corridor. It zipped past Mike and into the pod just as the doors began to close. Before anyone could react, the drone detonated. The blast wasn't fire. It was a corruption pulse. EMP shockwaves spiraled through the air. The pod jolted violently. Mike screamed, sprinting, too late. The doors slammed shut, then vanished. The transport blinked out of existence, cloaked by a wormhole scrambler. The Falcatrons were gone. And so was Gwen. Mike stood frozen in the hallway, hand still stretched toward the empty space. His breath echoed in his helmet. "No," he whispered. "No, no, no." Behind him, Marcus laughed. "Light can't save everyone, Helios. That's why darkness always wins." Far away, deep beneath the surface, Gwen awoke again. This time, inside something colder. She wasn't bound to a table anymore. She was floating. Suspended in a vertical tank of liquid. Her body glowed faintly, neural patterns dancing across her skull. Her suit was gone. Her memory was hazy, but one thing was clear. They hadn't taken her to destroy her. They were changing her. Chapter 7. Into the Ember Vault. The northern skies above the Arctic wastes burned with silent auroras. Below the ice, carved into ancient volcanic rock and forgotten military bunkers, the last stronghold of human resistance stirred. The Ember Vault, a city-sized refuge buried beneath tectonic crust and glacial steel. Mike Helios stood in its central chamber, his suit dimmed to a soft amber glow. His eyes, once blazing, now looked hollow. Aurum Prime entered behind him, flanked by 2 surviving Falcatrons. Their armor bore scorch marks from the failed extraction. The silence between them was heavy. "She's alive," Mike said, not turning. "I felt it. The suit, the core. It still pulses with her." Aurum approached slowly. "Her life force remains, but her location is shielded. The Scorpitrons are using her to draw you out, and to convert her." Mike's fists clenched. "I should have stayed in the pod, protected her. I had one job." "You had the job," Aurum cut in. "To light the path, to survive, so others can follow." Mike turned, voice low. "She's not a mission, Aurum. She's my reason." Aurum's glowing eyes narrowed. "Then let her be your fuel, not your ruin." Before more could be said, a technician rushed into the chamber, a young woman with frost on her uniform and panic in her voice. "We found something, buried under Sector 9, a vault beneath the vault." Mike followed them through icy corridors until they reached a sealed hatch, half covered in frozen sediment. Old human markings lined the metal. Solaris Initiative, classified core fusion tech. The tech continued. This wasn't on any maps, but the Falcatron scan signatures lit up the sensors. There's something alive in there, or stored. Mike looked at Aurum. "Yours?" Aurum nodded. "A lost generation. We believed them erased." They forced the hatch. Steam hissed out as ancient hydraulic locks broke open. Inside was a circular chamber with a glowing column at its center, a stasis core. Suspended within, a humanoid shape, golden armor cracked and scorched, but unmistakably Falcatron. Aurum stepped forward, almost reverent. "This is Solaris Aeon, first blade of the Dawn era, a warrior built not just for combat, but prophecy." Mike raised a brow. "You guys have prophecies now?" "We have memories," Aurum said quietly, "encoded in light." As Aurum activated the sequence, the chamber lit with cascading pulses. The stasis core cracked. The figure inside opened its eyes and light poured out. The Falcatron stepped free, stumbling slightly before rising to full height. Mike stepped forward. "Aeon, right?" The warrior looked at him. "And you carry the sun's mark, the armor forged from sacrifice." Mike nodded. "Name's Helios. We're losing this war." Solaris Aeon looked around the vault, at the maps, the scars, the flickering light. Then it spoke. "Not yet." Later that night, Mike stood on the upper deck of the Ember Vault, watching geothermal steam rise into the air. Gwen's memory haunted him. Her laugh, her stubborn fire, her belief in something better. He couldn't let her fade, or worse, become one of them. Solaris Aeon approached beside him. "You are not the first to carry grief like a shield." Mike smirked. "You don't sleep, do you?" "We dream in fragments, in light, and your dreams are loud." Mike didn't respond at first. Then he said, "If we're going to go after her, we'll need more than light shows and regrets." Anne lifted an arm, projecting a map of the Scorpitron hive zones. "There's a fracture in their field. Beneath the void basin, a tunnel route shielded from Marcus Crimson's hive mind. If we enter there, we can strike without alerting their global network." Mike studied the map. "You're proposing we crawl into their nest?" "I'm proposing we cut off the head of the hive," Anne replied, "and take back what was stolen." Mike stared out into the darkness. "Then let's light a fire in hell." Chapter 8. Falcatron Skyfall. The desert skies above the void basin were black as obsidian. No stars, no moon, just the heavy breath of war rising from the ground like smoke. Mike Helios stood at the open bay door of the solar skyship, flanked by Falcatron warriors, his suit now upgraded with deep-forged plating and new hydrogen boosters. Light pulsed along his spine, calm but coiled. His visor scanned the cracked earth below. Fissures, tunnels, steam vents. A spiderweb of Scorpitron hives beneath the world's crust. This was the edge of the abyss. Solaris Aeon stood beside him, silent as ever, watching the darkness like an old rival returned. "Last chance to turn back," Anne said. Mike smirked. "You first." The skyship banked hard. "Drop in 10 seconds, said the pilot Falcatron over comms. "Recommend rapid formation. We've got tremors on the ground. Scorpitron movement confirmed." Mike looked at the others. 7 Falcatrons, light-forged elites, armed with pulse lances, solar glaives, and arc field projectors. "Skyfall protocol engaged," he said. "Let's burn some shadows." The rear hatch opened. Wind howled. Then they jumped. They fell like stars. Mike ignited his boosters just before impact, landing in a controlled crash on the cracked basin floor. Falcatrons struck nearby in synchronized formation, golden armor glowing like suns against the desolation. The ground trembled. Steam hissed from vents. A foul wind carried the scent of oil and blood. From the tunnels ahead, faint red lights blinked in rhythmic sequence, like eyes, waiting. Mike raised his arm, scanning. Cavern mouth is ahead. Depth, 1.2 kilometers. Cloaked by Scorpitron biogrid. We punch through now, or we miss the window. They advanced. Inside the tunnels, the world changed. Stone gave way to flesh. The walls pulsed. Veins of blackened metal and fibrous tissue threaded through everything. The Scorpitron hive wasn't just a base. It was alive. Anne whispered through the neural link. "This is a gestation nest. New units are forming. Be swift. Be precise." They moved fast, blades out, sensors wide. Suddenly, screeches. Dozens of Scorpitron spawnlings dropped from above, skittering, blade-limbed, spider-fast. They struck from shadows, shrieking like broken radios. Falcatrons moved as one, slicing, shielding, and pulsing with radiant bursts of solar light. Mike rolled under a leaping drone, launched into a vertical boost, and rained plasma fire down on the horde. One Falcatron fell, impaled by a stinger through the chest. Another covered its retreat with an overcharged flare core, blinding the swarm long enough to recover position. "Keep pushing!" Mike shouted. They reached the inner nest wall, a spiraling tunnel of bone-like metal descending into darkness. At the bottom, a massive gate. Behind it, Gwen. Mike knew it, felt it. He placed his hand on the gate's surface. The suit responded. Light signature confirmed. Helios class. Override granted. The gate cracked, then split open. Inside was a chamber unlike anything they'd seen. Dark, quiet, massive. Suspended in the center, in a translucent orb of stasis liquid, was Gwen Hera. But she wasn't asleep. She was awake. Her eyes glowed faintly blue. Her veins shimmered with light and shadow. Mike's heart stopped. "Gwen." She looked at him, not with surprise, but with recognition. "Mike," she whispered. Her voice was echoed by the stasis field, warped, layered. "She's mid-conversion," Anne said, analyzing. "Half-integrated. The Scorpitrons were using her to stabilize a hybridized photonic AI. They're trying to create their own version of you." Mike stepped forward. "Then we stop it. Now." He lifted his arm. Suddenly, a flare of red light. Marcus Crimson stepped out from the shadows above the chamber, perched on a living ledge, his armor now fused with the hive itself. Tubes ran from his spine into the walls. He was the hive. "I warned you," he said. "She's no longer yours. She's something better now." He dropped to the ground like thunder, sending a ripple through the nest. Falcatrons engaged. Marcus met them head-on, cleaving one in two with a sweep of his dark blade arm. Anne launched forward, blade to blade, sparks flashing with every strike. Mike rushed to the stasis orb. "Gwen, I'm here. I'm pulling you out." She touched the glass. "I don't know if I can leave," she whispered. "You will. You're stronger than this." He placed his palm flat against the containment field. The light between them surged. Suddenly, Gwen screamed. The orb convulsed. Energy flared. Bright, chaotic. She was becoming something. And time was running out. Chapter 9. Black Venom Rising. The hive pulsed with energy. Not mechanical, not biological, but something in between. The stasis orb crackled as Gwen Hera's body lit up with a storm of clashing forces. Golden photonic currents sparking through veins threaded with dark biometal. Her eyes flickered between warm blue and cold red. Mike Helios gritted his teeth. One hand on the orb, one hand on his pulse blade. She's destabilizing, cried Skyvault. The energy signature's splitting. Photonic and entropy fields are fusing. Solaris Aeon blocked another strike from Marcus Crimson, the echo of their clashing blades ringing across the chamber like metal thunder. They're turning her into a conduit. Marcus smiled, his jaw now fully mechanical, eyes burning like twin singularities. She was always the key, he said. The human bridge. Compassion. Will. Neural resilience. You thought love made her weak, but love made her perfect. With a gesture, tubes detached from his armor and stabbed into the hive walls. The ground convulsed. Black tendrils extended from Gwen's pod into the nest itself. She's the first of a new order, Marcus declared. One who contains both your precious light and our necessary dark. Mike's hands shook. The Ixo Suit's voice whispered in his ear. Final choice imminent. Extraction possible. Warning, subject may be permanently altered. Gwen's voice came through the psychic tether the orb had awakened. A whisper, a thread of soul. Mike, I'm still here. But they're trying to overwrite me. Trying to make me forget you. Mike pressed his forehead to the orb. I won't let them. But behind him, chaos erupted. A second wave of Scorpitron elites burst into the chamber. Falcatrons fell into defensive formations, but the swarm was relentless, faster, more organized. They were protecting Gwen, not Marcus. She was the new core. Solaris Aeon shouted through comms, if she fuses completely, she'll control the hive, and she may not be Gwen anymore. Mike spun, torn. I can save her, he said. Anne's voice was hard. Or you can save the world. The hive began to shift, walls retracting into living matter, forming a launch spire behind Gwen's pod. She was being elevated into a cradle, the birth engine, where her body would become the CPU for a global Scorpitron network. Mike! She cried out loud now. Her body convulsed. Then, everything froze. A beam of golden light pierced through the ceiling. A drop pod from the Ember Vault had arrived. Reinforcements. A blinking panel beside the orb powered up. Emergency purge. Mike's finger hovered over it. Aeon moved toward him. You press that. The photonic energy will override the Scorpitron code. It will kill the hive. And Gwen. Mike stared at the orb. But if I don't? She becomes the end of everything. Tears welled in his eyes. The helmet hid them, but the suit felt them. I can't kill her. You can save her another way, Ian said softly. But it will cost you. What do I do? You connect. You let the Ixo Suit override your neural field. You'll merge with her. Guide her from inside. Risk your mind for hers. And if I fail? You both become one of them. A moment of silence. Mike looked up at Gwen, now held mid-air by tendrils of metal and light. Her arms spread, her heart pulsing with both horror and divinity. I'd rather die with her than live without her. He stepped into the light. The orb cracked open. Tendrils wrapped around Mike's arms and pulled him upward. The Ixo Suit blazed to full radiance, fusing with the cables, linking photonic code with corrupted AI. Mike screamed, not in pain, but in memory. Flashes of Gwen, their first kiss, the mountain hike, the rebellion, the night she told him he made her feel safe. Then the darkness, the Scorpitron hive, the fear, the cold corridors. Mike pushed deeper. Gwen, come back to me. He found her, buried beneath code, crying, whispering his name. Mike. He wrapped her in light, not as armor, but as memory, as love. The hive roared. The cables snapped. The energy burst outward, gold and black spiraling into a brilliant nova. Marcus Crimson screamed as the feedback hit him, burning through his corrupted flesh, cracking his armor. No, no, I was the future! He fell, writhing, into the pit below, his connection severed. When the light faded, Gwen collapsed into Mike's arms, her eyes clear, her breath shaky but her soul her own. The hive began to fall apart, like a body rejecting a failed transplant. The Falcatrons carried them out, the structure collapsing behind. Chapter 10. Rescue in the Wastes. The sun rose slow over the Arctic wastes, brushing the ice fields in gold. But Mike Helios didn't feel the warmth. Not yet. He sat beside Gwen Hera in a recovery chamber within the Ember Vault's northern wing, the walls humming with geothermal energy. She lay in a medbed, hooked to monitors tuned to both biological and photonic rhythms. Her vitals were stable. Her body was healing. But her eyes hadn't opened in 2 days. The Ixo Suit, folded on the floor nearby, pulsed with low light, almost like it was breathing. Mike sat bare-armed in a sleeveless undersuit, leaning forward with elbows on his knees, watching every flicker of her pulse monitor like it might stop. Solaris Aeon entered the room, silent as always. "She's holding," Mike said, "but she hasn't come back yet." "She will," Anne replied. "What you did. Merging your code, anchoring her soul. It rewrote the entire hive field. The light stabilized her. Now she's reorienting." Mike looked up. "She's not the same." Anne didn't deny it. "She's something new. You both are." That night, Gwen stirred. Her eyelids fluttered, then opened, slowly, like a sunrise after too many storms. Mike was there in an instant. "Gwen?" She looked at him and smiled. "You're still here." He nodded. "You scared the hell out of me." "Likewise," she said, her voice hoarse but warm. "Are we still alive?" Mike let out a shaky laugh. "Barely." She touched his hand. Her skin was warmer than before, not fever warm, but radiant. "I feel different," she said, "like something's still inside me, but it's quiet, waiting." Mike looked into her eyes. One still hazel, the other faintly glowing blue. "You brought the light back with you." Over the next 3 days, Gwen began walking again. The Ember Vault buzzed with movement, cleanup, restructuring, deployment. The Scorpitron hives across the northern hemisphere had gone dormant. With Gwen severing the hive link, the network had collapsed like a cut marionette. But not everything was gone. From satellite feeds, bursts of activity flared in the equatorial zones. Underground Scorpitron factions were still active. Something beneath the planet, deeper than the void basin, had stirred. Mike, Gwen, and Ain stood in the strategy chamber, watching the feeds. "These aren't drones," Anne said. "These are pure-born units. Autonomous. Hive independent." Mike crossed his arms. They adapted. Gwen stared at the patterns. No, they evolved. She pressed her hand against the screen, eyes narrowing. There's something down there, under the core. Marcus was just the surface of it. What we stopped was the birth phase. Mike turned. You saying this isn't over? I'm saying it's just beginning. In the days that followed, small attacks flared across the globe. Nothing organized, but enough to raise alarms. Then came the transmission. A scrambled video feed. Static. Interference. Then the screen lit up. Marcus crimson. But not whole. What remained of him was fused to a new throne, deep in the underground labyrinths, surrounded by coils of shadow metal and shifting limbs. Congratulations, Helios, he said, voice warped and mechanical. You delayed extinction, but evolution can't be stopped. He looked directly into the camera. You didn't destroy the hive? You freed it. The screen cut to black. Chapter 11, Eclipse Protocol. The Dyson Spire rose like a blade through the stratosphere. Constructed generations ago as a solar relay tower, it had been dormant since the collapse, a forgotten relic of pre-fusion Earth. But now, it was Earth's last chance. Mike Helios stood on the outer deck of the Falcatron command carrier, watching the blackened clouds swirl around the tower's peak. The spire extended 80 kilometers above sea level, piercing the edge of space. A monolithic conductor of pure sunlight. If reactivated, it could cleanse the atmosphere, reboot failing grids, and blind Scorpitron networks with raw solar data. But only if it was turned on in time. Gwen Hera stood beside him, suited now in an upgraded light-synced armor, designed by the Falcatrons to resonate with her unique hybrid nature. She'd kept the glow in her eye, not a flaw, but a spark, a reminder. This is it? She asked. Mike nodded. Eclipse Protocol. We fire the beam, purge the world, and pray we don't burn with it. Anne stepped forward, projecting a model of the tower. 3 teams. 1 to reactivate the solar cores, 1 to protect the mainframe, and 1 to hold the upper decks, where Crimson's forces are already embedded. Mike smirked. Let me guess. We get the top. Anne smiled, just slightly. Naturally. As they descended into the spire's atmosphere, turbulence rocked the dropship. Lightning crackled through the storm clouds. Below, Scorpitron war beasts, massive spider tank hybrids, crawled along the base, their tails striking the outer walls. Inside the control chamber, alarms blared. Marcus Crimson's voice filled the tower. You never understood, Helios. Light is not mercy. It's erasure and darkness. Darkness remembers. He had taken the spire's shadow core, a failsafe designed to store planetary energy, and inverted it. Now it pulsed with black entropy, preparing to fire a dark eclipse into the sky. One that would corrupt every satellite, every solar relay, and every defense grid Earth had left. It was light versus anti-light. Mike, Gwen, and the last of the Falcatron vanguard dropped onto the outer decks, engaging in brutal trench-style combat. Scorpitrons emerged from vents and clawed up the side of the tower like insects. Gwen unleashed a radiant pulse, disintegrating a wave with a single gesture. Mike, mid-air, activated the Nova Boost, raining light fire into the core deck. But Crimson was waiting. He rose through the center of the spire like a god reborn, larger now, fully integrated with the hive's lost heart. Wings of shadow, claws like razors, eyes like stars collapsing. "Hellos!" he roared. "You became a symbol. Now you'll die as one." Mike launched forward, blade drawn. Gwen mirrored him on the other side. Anne struck from above. They collided. The fight shook the tower. Mike's blade clashed against Marcus's shadow scythe. Gwen fired radiant bolts that turned mid-air, ricocheting between drones. Anne locked Crimson in a blinding duel of speed and precision, light and dark spiraling like a binary sun. Crimson knocked Mike across the platform with a blast of dark wave energy. He crashed, hard, metal screaming against metal. "Even your love couldn't save her," Marcus hissed. Mike rose, blood on his lip, but light in his eyes. "She saved me." Inside the Spire's control chamber, the Eclipse countdown continued. Activation in 90 seconds. Gwen moved toward the core, and the shadow tendrils struck. One wrapped around her leg, another her arm. She screamed as the dark energy began to drain her, not just her life, but her memory. Mike saw it and ran. "No!" He tackled Marcus at full velocity, both of them smashing through the spire wall and falling through open sky. Mid-fall, Mike activated the hydrogen flare core in his chest, not to self-destruct, but to ignite a shield. The blast carried them both back onto the platform. Marcus staggered, glitching. Mike didn't stop. He drove the Ixo blade straight through Marcus's chest. "Light," Mike growled, "never forgets." Marcus's eyes widened, then dimmed. His body collapsed into shards of metal and code, dissolving into nothing. Gwen stood weak, but alive. The core flared behind her. Eclipse protocol engaged. The Dyson Spire roared. From its peak, a beam of pure solar light exploded into the clouds, slicing through the storm, blinding the sky, and sending a wave of radiant energy across the Earth. Scorpitron hives across every continent shut down. Drones dropped mid-air. Dark fields collapsed. The night ended. Mike and Gwen stood on the outer deck, side by side, watching the sun rise, for the first time in years, fully. Solaris Ain stepped beside them. "It's done," he said. Mike shook his head. It's just beginning. Chapter 12. Ascension at the Dyson Spire. The world was still. For the first time in decades, sunlight touched every surface without resistance. The eclipse clouds had cleared. The Scorpitron networks had fallen, and from the tallest point on Earth, the solar apex of the Dyson Spire, Mike Helios watched the dawn unfold. The wind howled at this altitude, but his suit adapted, shielding him in a quiet field of equilibrium. Around him, the once battle-scarred structure shimmered as photonic systems reawakened. Gold light crawled across the platform, trailing back into the grid like veins of purpose. Gwen Hera stood beside him, draped in her light-stitched cloak. Her eye still glowed faintly, not as a threat, but as a beacon. The fusion of Falcatron code and human soul had settled. She was whole, and she was awake in a way few ever were. Below, on Earth, the resistance had begun rebuilding. Solar power returned to the continents. Satellite grids came back online. Fields of dormant AI tech were being wiped clean. The darkness was gone. And yet, Mike looked to the stars. A low hum pulsed from the spire's outer edge. He turned to see Solaris Ain approach, cloak flowing, steps slow. His golden armor bore no scratches now, reforged in peace. "You did it," Anne said. Mike shook his head. "We did it." Anne nodded once. The light was never meant to act alone. There was a pause, carried on the wind. Then Anne spoke again. "It's time." Mike's brows furrowed. "Time for what?" Anne gestured to the glowing ring above the spire, a platform that hadn't activated in generations. Hovering above it was a solar prism gate, spinning slowly, refracting starlight through a lens of golden geometry. "You've served your world, but you're more than soldier now," Anne said. "You are witness, and this gate leads beyond." Gwen stepped forward. "Beyond Earth? Beyond this star? Beyond this war?" Anne said. "There are others." The prism glowed brighter. Anne stepped onto the platform. One by one, the remaining Falcatrons followed, silent, honored. Mike looked to Gwen. "I can't ask you—" She stopped him with a hand on his chest plate. "You're not asking," she said. "You're leading, and I'm coming with you." Mike looked at the Earth one last time, at the cities, the vaults, the ashes that would become gardens. Then he smiled. "Let's go find what's out there." They stepped onto the gate. Light wrapped around them, and the stars opened. Epilogue. Somewhere, far beyond the heliosphere, in the dark between galaxies, a signal blinked. Not in binary, not in photonic code, but in something older, something watching, something waiting. It pulsed once, then twice, then all at once. The war was over, but the next awakening had just begun.